Welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, my fellow co-host, somebody who knows what to do with secret plans, Jason Johnson.
Unfortunately, many Bothans were killed in the making of this podcast. Nope, wait, I misread that. No Bothans were killed in the making of this podcast. Uh, no Bothans were mentioned in the movies. Or anyway, go ahead.
Nope, they're not killed until the second Death Star, much later.
Oh, really? Did I just mess that up completely?
Now, that's what I was thinking too, and I was like, wait a minute, where are the Bothans? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's when Mon Mothma says, many Bothans died, whatever. That's Death Star 2.
Well, speaking of Mon Mothma,
Yeah, we see some more of her tonight as we conclude our Andor Season 2 watch with the fourth and final 3-episode chapter. That's episodes 10 through 12 for you math inclined people. And as we said last time, yeah, we're sorry to see this go. It was an amazing piece of Star Wars media. Dare I say, probably the best TV Star Wars yet.
yeah, we'll
But
get
we'll
into
get
that.
into it.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll touch on this towards the end. But nothing on the horizon, so I don't know where we go from here.
Yeah,
Star Wars wise.
yeah. Maybe it's next year's movies, but I don't know if anything before that. We'll see.
The mall cartoon?
Yep. And I guess I said the last couple of times I thought they may have changed or refilmed part of Rogue One after Andor. And nope, now that I've trying to not be spoiler free anymore because I've watched them all, no, that wasn't it. Apparently, it was people's opinions about Cassian had changed as a result of Andor, and they had new viewpoints or a new appreciation of his character. So I guess that's again what you get when you try to avoid spoilers and you see part of a headline before you fast scroll somewhere else. So
Yeah, misreading to try not to read is a tough skill. So I get you.
yeah, and of course I did go watch Rogue One again after Andor, and I guess it kind of made it even more depressing than it already was, at least to me, since now you got more backstory on what Cassian had gone through before the movie, and unfortunately his journey ends there. So it's like, oh well.
Well, I'm sure he had nothing to live for with since Bix left him, and I'm sure there was no uh, reason for him to get back with her later on or anything like that. So
Yeah, not like some final scene that shows something. It's like, oh wow, he doesn't even know about that. Oh well, and he never will.
never will.
So, we'll get into that later too. And yeah, our little public service thing as always. If you like what we do here, please give us a like or a review, or tell people about this little podcast here. We'd appreciate it so much. Okay, so the final 3 episodes of Andor. So we'll start at episode 10, of course, because that's where we start.
Really?
Yeah, this time around.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
you get to call it. So go for it.
Man, at least this time I got the numbers right on the episode, so that's
Or you know, I could just not just read what's in front of me, but yeah, failed at that too. So anyway,
you could create a totally different recap. I don't know. But yeah, so episode 10, Make It Stop. 1 year, as always, after the events of last time on Gorman, Lieutenant Young reports to Luthen that the Empire's grand energy project is actually a weapon, and that Dedra has likely uncovered their identities. Although Luthen initially promises Young and his family safe passage from Coruscant, he then kills him to ensure his silence. We cut to Luthen destroying the communication system in his shop, and Dedra shows up and confronts him with a stolen Starpath unit, deducing that he is Axis. Remember that? Luthen attempts suicide to avoid interrogation, but doesn't quite do that so well, and is taken alive to a hospital nearby, while Kleya watches from afar. And we get some flashbacks revealing that Luthen is a former Imperial sergeant who defected after his unit massacred Kleya's hometown. He finds Kleya hiding on his ship and informally adopts her, and they begin selling antiques while waging resistance against the Empire. So there you go. That explains everything that's ever happened to them. And in the present, Dedra is arrested for her overreach, and Kleya infiltrates the hospital and disconnects Luthen's life support system, killing him. Da-da. Alas, poor Luthen.
yep. Which drops us into episode 11. Who else knows? Deidre is interrogated by Krennic, who admonishes her for allowing sensitive information about the secret Imperial weapons project to be leaked from her database, and for confronting Luthen without sufficient backup. The investigation into Deidre is assigned to her former assistant, Hirt, who identifies Kleya from the security footage. Portagaz declares Kleya a public health concern to expedite her arrest. In the Coruscant safe house, Kleya sends Willman a distress signal, prompting him to send Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO there to retrieve Luthen, alienating the group further from the Yavin 4 leadership. Deidre gives Hirt insight into Luthen's communication technologies from her cell, enabling his team to track Kleya's signal to the safe house, where they arrive close behind Cassian and Melshi. Kleya passes on Luthen's critical intelligence, but asks to stay behind, given the distrust of Luthen among the rebels on Yavin 4. As Hirt's team closes in, KTSO breaks into the building in pursuit.
And then it all wraps up with episode 12, Jeddah, Kyber, Urso. K2SO kills Hirt and his entire team, but Kleya is wounded during the fight. Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO take her back to Yavin 4, where they are grounded by Bail for their disobedience. Much of the rebel leadership, including Bail, are scornful of Luthen and question the veracity of his new intelligence, but Mon is willing to hear Kleya out. Meanwhile, Vel speaks with Cassian, who convinces her of Luthen's integrity, and the two toast their fallen comrades, while Kleya comes to terms with her new role on Yavin. Back in the Imperial world, interrupted while listening to Nemik's Rebel Manifesto from last season, Partagaz commits suicide just as he's about to be arrested. Dedra, we find out, is imprisoned in a prison facility similar to Narkina 5, where Cassian was last season, and breaks down crying. Back on Yavin, when a rebel informant associated with Saul repeatedly contacts Yavin 4 to talk to Cassian, General Draven realizes that the evidence for the Imperial Weapons Project is too great to be a trap. After meeting with Draven and Mon, Bail agrees to let Cassian and K2SO fly to Kafrene to meet with the informant. And finally, as we close things out here, on Mina Rao, our little buddy B2EMO is seen playing with another droid as Bix cradles a baby and looks wistfully towards the horizon.
Cue the Twin Sons music. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and then cue right into Rogue One, because that's brilliant. All right, so that was, I guess, the end of a lot of things. The end of Andor Season 2, the end of Andor, the entire series, and pretty much like we thought from the last couple episodes, this ends exactly where Rogue One picks up. And I guess we'll get into our thoughts on all that in a little bit later here. But overall, at least for these 3 episodes, what do you think? I mean, we know where it goes next, obviously, but how about these last 3? Did it end, quote unquote, to your liking?
So, and I guess I'll preface with I loved the show, right? I mean, I'm sure we'll circle back and kind of rank this and where it falls in our Star Wars show order. But I do have to say, I thought while it was a good wrap up, the pacing of the final episode especially just kind of was not what I was expecting. The previous chapter of 3 episode segments were, all kind of fevered pitch, and this one, kind of wrapped in the penultimate episode, and we just kind of got to see where everybody kind of, like you said, fed right into Rogue One. So they kind of had to show us the montage of where's everybody at in pieces around the 3rd episode. So that was the only complaint I would have. I mean, overall, the show rocked. So, I rank it pretty highly.
Yeah, because obviously after the fact, now I'm reading like the Wikipedia pages. I'm reading stuff that I was avoiding. See, former assumption at the beginning of the podcast. And yeah, I think the showrunner wanted to make it like several seasons, like maybe up to 5 seasons. Like they had an idea, but I guess obviously it didn't work out that way. So maybe it's just kind of a way of getting all the important bits, rewriting what he had to rewrite to make it into 2 seasons. And then it's kind of like, well, we know where it's going to go here because it's 1 year to go. So let's just kind of show you like half the last episode of, and here's what happened to so and so, and this guy, and this person, and okay. But yeah, I mean, overall, like you, I mean, I love this show. It ended great, obviously, because it wraps up everything you need to know about the characters that you've been invested for the last 23 and a half episodes, right? And for those characters that did not go forward into Rogue One, And then obviously Rogue One, you see what happens to the rest of them. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much liked where the surviving characters ended up. Uh, as we'll get into more of that, I thought it was kind of appropriate. And I, of course, as we'll probably talk about here later, love that we got just a tiny bit more of K2SO because those scenes were hilarious.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. I think just as I mentioned, my main complaint is just the fact that it ended. Right, there's so much more I would have liked to have seen with this group, and I just hate that we have to, you know, because of the timeline, we don't get to see what comes next because we saw that already, which is kind of weird to say. So
Yeah, and they've already gone from, whatever, 4 years before to 1 year. So and it's over. 'Cause they're going to come back later and fill in some of the gaps between, those times. Like this is it. It's done.
well, they could, and
Yeah,
and I'll get into my thoughts
yeah,
there.
yeah, or do a different, perspective like we've talked about, but yeah, it just won't be the same kind of stuff. So
There could be a whole Star Wars show called From a Certain Point of View, and they just kind of bounce around from viewpoints of different characters from scenes we've already seen.
So yes, let's kind of dive in here and get our final thoughts here on stuff. So as always, we open up with, 1 year later, and this time it's -1 BBY, so this is it. Right? There's not much left to go. And things are starting to both come together for our main characters and fall apart for other characters. Stuff that's been building since season one. It's got to all wrap up here, right? So, Lieutenant Young wants to meet with Luthen and basically is like in a panic that everything that's been happening on Gorman and ever else is because they don't need a new energy source. It's a new weapon. And he knows that because he's been hacked into Dedra's computer for like the last 2 years and got it from there. And now he thinks she knows about it. So now, of course, he wants Luthen to get him and his family off of Coruscant. Luthen's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Just tell me what you know here. And so, no, really, I need to get off. No, really, tell me what you got first, and I'll tell you. I'll get you off. Okay. He tells him, and then we cut away to seeing Young slouch on the bench. You're like, okay, yep, listen, he's dead. So,
Yeah, we wondered where Cassian learned his bedside manner on how to deal with informants, and I guess we see it here, right? So
yep. So yeah, Luthen just kills him and moves on. He's got things to do, and he's got to do it now, right? So that seemed to be pretty much in character with Luthen. He's like, okay, we're just gonna scorched earth burner thing and then get out of here. So,
yeah, I mean he and he's not our cuddly rebellion, right? Like we talk about the Rebel Alliance being a grouping, a coming together of all the different rebellions that have been going on. Luthen probably falls closer to Saw than he would like to admit in tactics, and a little more cloak and dagger to Saw's thermal detonator. But it definitely is a not as we see later, not well in the graces of the more up and upstanding rebellion people. So
yeah, but you can also kind of argue that his tactics are necessary for like where he's at and what he's dealing with versus what they're dealing with. Like they're on the other end of it. He's like in the guts of it, right?
oh well, that leads you to the whole argument of what has to be done to keep allow other people to live like that. It's not happening. So there's always some people who pay the price.
Yeah, so then we cut to his shop where he's pouring some kind of like acid kind of stuff over the comm system, and a new client shows up at the front door, Dedra. And yeah, I kind of like the little like byplay between them as they talk about artifacts and antiquities, but they're really talking about what they really do. So I thought it was kind of well executed, and like I like the little subtext that they're talking about. It's like what did work out so well with Lucian's attempt at suicide didn't quite work out to what he thought was going to happen. But yeah, then obviously Dedra is a little too overconfident there because now she's panicking of like, oh no, I just confronted him. I'm like, haha, I know who you are. It's like, oh no, he's dead. So, and, I'm sure that's not gonna have any long-term repercussions to her career. I'm sure.
No, none. She's on the path to greatness. Yeah, this scene, and it sounds like a complaint, but it's really not. It kind of goes back to my. I wish we'd have had more time, because I would have liked to have seen, for them to show us that Deidre was becoming more reckless. What was her reaction, and is this kind of a fallout of Cyril's death, right? Because he died off last year, and we really don't get we end with her grieving, but we really don't get to see how she got from where she was at the end of last year to this year, and there that it just could have been a longer scene and could have got in more into how that impacted her and her feeling like it was worth sacrificing or risking her career to bring him down at this point.
Yeah, because was she trying to just like do it herself so she can like show it to Partagaz and whoever's beyond him? I don't know, the Emperor, whoever. That hey, look, I'm good. I need a promotion. I need more stuff. It's like, well, I guess you can always overreach yourself there.
Yeah, was she at a risk of losing her place because of how she'd fallen apart over the last year? Yeah, there's just all kind of cool little things that you can see there, but we don't have time. We've got to jump to the next spot because 3 episodes.
Yep, I only got 2 seasons, so gotta cram it at the end there. And at first, I didn't really think we needed all the flashbacks on who Luthen really was and Kleya and how they met. I mean, it was an okay subplot. I mean, it did kind of answer the questions we had before about their relationship, like their role, like who's in charge, like was she really in charge? Was he? So I guess it does really kind of now that yes, he was in charge and she was going along with it, right? But it also did set it up for later in that episode to show how hard it was for her to ultimately, pull the plug on Luthen as she's standing there in the whatever operating room or whatever, and really struggling with it before she pulled the plug, right? So, and then it also does explain why she doesn't want to leave Coruscant later. So I guess it served what it was supposed to serve.
So my head canon is this is the backdoor pilot for the Kleya show that we're going to get as a spinoff to this, with her doing all the cool cloak and dagger spy stuff, and yeah, that's coming in the next couple of years. We'll get a Kleya show.
Yeah, because she's there on Yavin 4, so who knows what she's doing now. And yeah, so as we guessed up ahead, yeah, Dedra totally screwed the pooch, so to speak, and got arrested. And she gets a really tense and creepily uneasy grilling by Krennic as he lays out pretty much all the stuff that happened right under her nose and how irresponsible she is. And of course, she's completely shocked that Jung had access to all her files, and it's like Krennic's like, "Well, you're obviously you're a rebel spy." What? They can just see like just everything about in her face just come crashing down. Like her entire career's over. She knows everything's done. This is it. I'm lucky to be killed here in the next 5 minutes, right? So yeah, it's kind of like the ultimate insult to what she believes in, because she was obviously the hardcore imperialist, right, or whatever you call it, and trying to do what is right for the empire, and it's basically all done at this point. It's all come crashing down.
Which is not at all where I expected her to end up. I think I've said a couple times that I feel like she had to be one of the ones to die by the end of this series, and no, they kind of pulled a fast one and threw her in jail, or the very similar, like you said in the recap, the prison that's very similar to the floor shock, don't no shoes prison that we saw last season. So yeah, this kind of maybe this is the other part of my big spy thriller Kleya show is we also get Deidre, and maybe she is working to escape the prison, or maybe it's kind of a Demolition Man thing where they bring her out of prison to catch Kleya or something. There's some options there.
Yeah, could be good show.
So I'll be workshopping that with Disney, just
Okay, yeah.
waiting for them to call me back.
Mm.
So
And yeah, so Kleya gets off a distress call to Wilmon, and of course, Cassian, don't leave anybody behind kind of thing, or actually I think it's Luthen, not Kleya, right? So he's gonna go help Luthen out. So he of course borrows, quote unquote, the Ewing again, and he and Melshi,
surely the last time we see that.
yeah, I mean that's not happening again. Yeah, he Melshi, who's from Rogue One now, so now we're getting people from the Rogue One show, and K2SO all go to Coruscant to rescue Luthen, but nope, it's Kleya. So Cassian doing Cassian things. He's borrowing Rebel equipment, including K2SO, who's probably Rebel equipment, disobeys commands, flies off on his own personal mission. So, I'm sure nothing bad's going to happen when he comes back, since, we know what's going to happen in like several weeks from now. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess my only comment on that is that Ewing really has some miles on it. Like that, you don't realize, when we jump into Rogue One, the history of that Ewing, and now we kind of do. So,
Yep, for a little while longer. Yep, it's a thing. And then, yeah, I kind of like the race to get to Kleya in the safe house. You have the Imperials hunting them down, tracking their signal. They kind of interrupt an old couple eating dinner because I think that's where it was, but they're one floor too low. That was kind of funny. But then, of course, what I mentioned before, the best scenes in all of this whole thing was K2SO. He's on the ship because obviously they don't want like a security droid following them around because that's not too inconspicuous, right? But he realizes that the comms are out. There's Imperial shuttle there. He's like, oh no, so he's got to go save the day, right? And it's just hilarious. He's just walking along the bridge. The trooper's like, one trooper's like, "Hey, are you with us?" No, and knocks him off the bridge. It's just great.
Well, we know how well the Empire likes railings, so
Yeah, fits in with the whole architectural design of the Empire. Takes out the two guys in the shuttle, the two guys in the lobby, and then carries the Lieutenant Heat or Hurt down the hallway as a shield for the one guy shooting at him. It was hilarious. And then sums it up with the best line so far. Cassian, I've cleared a path. Uh-huh, you sure did.
yeah, there was definitely some good lines there. I mean, bringing back Alan Tudyk to do the voice and keeping the consistency with K2SO was an important part of this, and it definitely showed how important that character is going to be in a future movie or past movie. Anyway.
Yeah, future past, past future. And yeah, so Kleya gets wounded, like I said before. So I guess well now we're gonna take you back to the Yavin 4 because you can't fight us for it. And everyone gets greeted with a warm welcome. No, that's not. They get grounded and confined to quarters for disobeying orders. And yeah, Luthen apparently was not all in that high regard that we assumed with the rebel leadership, except for Mon, who's at least the only one willing to hear what Kleya has to say. I'm gonna guess probably because she owes her life to Luthen and her escape from Coruscant to Luthen and Cassian, but more to Luthen, who gave her the heads up warning. So it's like, okay, fine. You know, for one last favor for Luthen, I'll hear what you gotta say.
Yeah, and I'll keep with my theme of it's not really a complaint. It's I love the show so much that I just want more of it because my complaint is we didn't get to see the falling out between Luthen and the other rebels and the reason they distrust his information so much, given his track record of everything that we've seen him give to the rebellion and all the information that Cassian's had and all that. Why would they disregard the information? It would have been nice to have seen that, but it really just comes down to I want more of the show. So they could have just stretched it out and I'd have been happy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess unless they just didn't want to show that, or yeah, I don't know why. Maybe again because of time, right?
Yeah, I definitely get the economy of scale. It just when you've got it goes back to the difference and I'm not complaining of any of the shows we get because these shows are so good they're just so far between. But I grew up on the 24 episode seasons, right? And I'd love to have that type of experience with this content, this quality of content with that length of episodes. I guess is what I want.
Yeah, because obviously, like we said before, he's doing what has to be done, and yeah, it may not be what more refined people like Bale and the other senator, whoever was there, but it's like it got you to where you are, and it's stuff that has to be done, and you might not like it, but that's how things sometimes have to get done. But so yeah, so it's but maybe he overstepped himself, right? Who knows? Because obviously we didn't see all that stuff,
Yeah,
so it's like there's something there that obviously rubbed people the wrong way over the course of however many years or whatever.
yeah, and I guess that's one of the other things as we'll see as the council starts talking. But the only thing I guess that this show did that I question is making us dislikes not the word, but disagree with Bail Organa when every other really appearance of him has been you know a character that was working with our heroes or we were cheering him on, and this is the first time I've been like, no, Bail, stop, right? Like, yeah, we know that the information is something they have to pay attention to, and it just kind of makes you go, oh, he's one of those guys now. So
Yeah, or given what they're all trying to tell the council, like, no, it's a super weapon that can destroy lots of things. People are like, nah, that's insane. Why would they do? Why would they build something like that? It's a
yeah, that won't come back to bite Bail Organa in his home world at all. Like they have nothing to worry about.
yeah,
Alderion's a peaceful planet.
yeah. They
So
have the weapons. Yeah, yeah. See irony here. maybe that's why, just to prove it's like, okay, dude, don't believe it until, hey, look, what's that just popped out of hyperspace? Oh, look at that giant thing.
That's it's no moon.
That's right. And then yeah, we got our kind of rapid fire, or not rapid fire. It's probably like what 15 minutes or whatever of kind of wrap up scenes of our surviving characters. Vel and Cassian toasting their fallen comrades, which they've had 2 seasons now of history of all that, so probably a long list. Major Partagaz is going to get arrested, but when when he said like, "Can I have a few minutes to put my affairs in order?" I'm like, okay, I know what's going to happen. And the guy leaves. He's standing there with two troopers, and you hear a shot, and the troopers start to like go forward. The guy's like, no, no. so, so so, gave him his little time to fall on his sword. Which, yeah, I mean, I guess if he's like the top of the ISB or near it, then yeah, obviously, I'm sure what he did was better than where he'd be going next, which is before Palpatine or Vader to discuss quote unquote his failure. So, which,
Yeah,
as we know from
th-
everything else with those two guys, never ends well.
yeah. They have great employee counseling, and they help improve your evaluations next year, right?
Yeah, I mean they have well laid out and defined HR exit strategies. Nice severance packages. It's fine. And yeah, we see Dedra in the cell with those electrified floors, like where Cassian was last season. And it's just, yeah, totally wrecked and just crying herself to sleep. Basically, welcome to the rest of your life, right? Or maybe after Palpatine falls, they release the prisoner. Who knows, right? So, we don't know what happens to her yet. You know, she might show up later, like you said.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe she'll return somewhere. Probably not, but I, if nothing else, there's some good like fiction they could pick up out of that. Like put it in the book universe or something. I don't
Hmm.
know. So
Yeah, and then our final couple scenes here, the Rebel Council finally comes together and finally comes to the agreement that, well, I guess we can't afford not to do anything with this intelligence that Kleya and Cassian have almost given their lives for about, this Imperial superweapon, so to speak. So, and then also adding on the fact that this one informant in Saw Gerrera's group keeps calling them about it too, because what's happening on Jeddah as, opening of Rogue One. So they finally agree to let Cassian and K2SO go meet with them. And they go into the U-Wing again, and that's exactly where we'll find them later in Rogue One. So, but that's not the end. There's one more scene after that. And we cut to Mina Rao back from the first episode of the season. And I was happy to see our little droid buddy P2EMO there. And he's rolling around, happily chatting with another droid, playing with another droid. So I'm like, oh, how cute. And then I didn't know who it was at first because it's been a couple episodes, right? So, short-term memory, right? I see, someone's walking through a field, and I'm like, oh, wait, that's Bix. That's right. Okay, so that's where she went. And she's holding a baby. I wonder who the father is.
yeah, we'll never know. I mean, it's not important. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Nothing to see
yeah, but
here.
there's no reason to make wild speculation or anything. It's
No, no, no. Some farmer. It's fine. Yeah, no, totally agree. I did love getting closure on some of the characters as much as I kind of griped about the way the pacing felt off on the last episode, especially B2 Emo, right? Because I was really worried that when he got left on Mina Rao at the very beginning of the season that was going to be the last we saw of him. And it's like, no, we didn't forget. He's still there. So that was really well done.
yeah, 'cause I wondered like where he would end up because before they left him behind on Amina Rao. But yeah, it's like, well, you got K2SO, who's obviously the attack droid. So you can have the little cutesy droid around with you, and he's not in Rogue One, right? So what happened to him? They didn't just like ignore him, and they give him his ending scene too. So,
Right. And like you said, at a much happier place than he's really been the entire show. Like, he's not been the most upbeat droid, so
yeah, I
kind of
mean,
nice to
yeah,
him to get a happy ending.
since Cassian's adopted mom died, he's been kind of like the Mr. Depressing droid there. But he's a happy guy. He's supposed to be happy. So,
He was pretty depressing before, so
yeah, kind of. But he was cute. As most droids in Star Wars are.
yeah, he'll be an option at the Droid Factory next
Hmm.
year. Just wait.
And yeah, I wonder if that's also another reason why Bix left. Like she didn't want to hang around the rebellion, with the baby coming, right? And possibly going on a mission, or if Yavin got attacked, not quite yet, but it will. It will here. So yeah, I mean, she made a good choice too of disappearing at the right time, I guess.
Well, and it adds to the draw of Cassian to leave the rebellion, right? I mean, he was willing to walk away from the rebellion for Bix. And if you add a kid to the mix, not that we can assume it's his kid or anything, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, uh-huh. Um,
You are the father. Have a Star Wars Maury Povich, right?
yeah.
Cassian Andor, you are the
Um,
father.
oh no. I can start jumping up on chairs. It's gonna be
Yeah.
anyway. Catch him outside and all that. The but yeah, no, Cassian would have walked away for
Hmm.
sure, right? Like that would have been the end of him in the rebellion, and given her, Force prophecy person telling her all, plus her feelings of him, the rebellion needed him. That definitely explains her sudden and inevitable leaving.
Yeah, I wonder, did they ever track her down and tell her, or did she ever figure it out a year from now, or however many Rogue One was like, what, a couple months, a couple weeks? Yeah, so did she ever find out?
Mm. There wasn't much going on in the galaxy at that point, so
Yeah, just little things, nothing really going. So yeah, that's it. That's that's the ending we got left with. So what do you think about, I guess now overall the whole season, or if you want to go talk about the overall 2 seasons? I guess if, like you said, the rankings of stuff, I think this was one of the best, if not the best, live action Star Wars TV series of them all so far. And I really love The Mandalorian. And as you heard from our Ahsoka recap, we loved Ahsoka too. So, but this one just seemed to have that just so much more depth of characters and stories. Like maybe it's just because of this of the spy genre in general, like all the espionage and subterfuge and like chess pieces kind of things. I don't know if that just I have more love of that, and it does work surprisingly well in the Star Wars universe, as we've seen Star Wars be a framework for other kinds of plot lines like heists and comedies and westerns and spy. It fits right in. So everything fits right into this sci-fi framework.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I would say if I had to rank it, it's one of the best for sure. And like you said, each one kind of fits a different niche. Mando doing the action adventure, little westerny thing. Skeleton Crew was the Goonies style adventure, and honestly one of my favorites because that's my genre right there. Like they hit that one targeted at me. I was their target audience. But the spy thriller, that's a big one, and I kind of compare it to the early days of the MCU, right? When they were trying out different genres, and probably to this day, my favorite MCU movie is the second Captain America because it was basically a spy movie, and this fit that same mold, and I think that's why I thought so highly of it as well.
Yeah, and when people do it well, I love when properties have time to fill in the gaps between what we've seen or read before and fill in more of those gaps. And obviously Andor did that extremely well of how the rebellion start to form, how do they get to where they got to? And in this case, it pretty much took you right up to, where the films kick off. So will they ever come back to this time frame again? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, they kind of pretty much close the book on it in such a way that if they never do again, I'll be happy either way because it's like you've connected all the dots for me, and I love it.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. I do kind of hope they find a way to revisit the timeline, this part of the timeline. I think there's a lot of other cool stories to tell about the early rebellion. What about those Bothans? If we're gonna
Yeah,
bring it
we
full
still have
circle.
that. They can.
Yeah,
There's still the espionage that still is going on from Rogue One through Return of the Jedi.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Has Star Wars even like the new one? Obviously, I guess we're calling it Legends. The old EU gave us a lot of Bothans, but I don't even know if we've ever actually seen one in the current Disney universe. So there's a whole options there. They were what hacker cats in the other one. So
Yeah, and I haven't read any
um,
of the new novels really, so I don't know if they've talked about anything like there. I don't know.
yeah, I haven't read a lot of them either. I read a couple of the old Republic, High Republic ones, but you know, nothing modern. Yeah, I think if I wanted to just kind of loop back to one last thing, it would be that the my favorite part of this whole season, at least this block, I wouldn't know if it's the season, but highlight of this is the scenes of Kleya in the hospital, right? Like I think that was another perfect example of the spy thriller thing of her just distracted the troopers or working her way through, sneaking into the hospital. That's the kind of stuff I was there for, and they definitely nailed that in this block. So
Yeah, it was funny how she like pretty much used what was available, right? She got a nurse uniform. She was using medical props, and one prop was even a patient. So like the one
exactly,
elderly alien guy is making noises, and she's just like just talking to him like he knows what's going on, and he's like what? Huh? But we're just going with it, and then they don't translate, so they can't say like I don't know who she is. Where am I going? So, but yeah, all that was
yeah,
cool. You're kind of waiting for her to get captured or whatever, which obviously she wasn't going to. But and then they even used the flashbacks where she wanted to press the button to blow up, the explosives on the Imperial, whatever it was, transport or whatever it was, and I guess she finally got her chance to do it as a distraction for the hospital. So it's kind of all that whole episode kind of all fit together.
agreed. Yep.
But yeah, that's the end, unfortunately. Anything else you want to mention that we didn't with either just this chunk or the whole thing?
No, no. Like I said, I'm depressed that now we don't have any more Star Wars TV shows on the horizon, and we just have to wait for movies. We'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah, so hopefully the people that did this get to do some more stuff because like John Favreau, I think what Tony Gilroy, that's the writer, and who actually wrote Rogue One too. So I guess this is his chance to flesh out the stuff he did before. But yeah, I hope that he gets to do some more stuff because this is a top-notch couple of seasons here.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and yeah, since there is no more Star Wars for a while, I guess I don't know what we can do now. What should we do? Oh, hey, I know what we. How about we do our Farscape friends a favor and get back to that for a little bit? Maybe give time for Ironheart to finish, or see if the buzz. I haven't want to get too spoilery about it, but see if the buzz around it's worth covering. I don't know.
That sounds great to me. I'm totally ready for some Muppets in space. So
Yep. Okay, back to our live action with Muppets. That's what we. So, for you Farscapers out there, your homework for next time will be going back. If you can look all the way back to when we last did Farscape, that would be season 4, episode 12, Kansas, which I guess we kind of left in a kind of a fun spot because this was the second episode in a three-part set. So we kind of have been stuck in a cliffhanger for the last few months since obviously the newer, shinier things have taken our attention away.
wow, I forgot we left on a cliffhanger. I'll have to do my own homework.
Yeah, because that's the one before it with the minimalist set of him being on an iceberg in some water, and then he jumps through the wormhole and thinking he's gonna go back to Moya, and he winds up floating in a spacesuit above Earth, and he's like, "Ooh."
Yeah, that's right. We left it as we're staring at the planet Earth, and where do we go from
Yeah,
here?
because obviously he's got no ship, and Earth has no real vehicles to come up and get you, and not that they even know you're there because you're a little tiny guy on big space. So it's like, it's like, oops. So,
That's why they call it space, because there's a lot of it.
yeah, space. It's really big. If you ever read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's a whole opening bit on space. Space. It's really big.
Yep, it's really big.
Mind-blowingly big.
And some, grab your towel and join us next time for Hitchhiker's Guide. No, 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 wait, no, Farscape, got
Yep,
it.
Farscape. Yeah, that thing we used to do back then.
We should put Hitchhiker's Guide on the list at some point.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
I do have it on the DVD somewhere. Anyway, but your homework this time will be Farscape, not anything else. So back to Farscape. So, so go back.
It's occasional randomness, not just
Yeah,
randomness. We
not just
promise.
total randomness, occasional, just occasional randomness. So that's your homework for next time, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Welcome back to what? Hey, what? Take
Recording.
take two.